There is a specific kind of silence that follows a great loss. It isn't just the absence of sound, it's a physical presence. It has a weight, a density that seems to warp the space around it. When you walk into a room where someone is grieving, or where a long-held love has finally fractured, you don't need to be told. You feel it. You feel the atmosphere thicken. We usually call these vibes or moods, relegating them to the realm of the poetic or the purely psychological. We treat our feelings as if they are ghosts, ethereal things that exist outside the real world of matter and bone. But what if that's a mistake? What if our emotions are not just reactions to life, but are governed by the same immutable laws that dictate the orbits of planets and the decay of atoms? In the quiet corners of our lives, there is a hidden physics at work, a set of invisible mechanics that determines why some memories feel heavy, why some people resonate with us like a struck tuning fork, and why, despite our best efforts, the things we love eventually tend toward a slow, beautiful collapse. In physics, the first law of thermodynamics tells us that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed. It is the universe's way of keeping its books balanced. When a star dies, it doesn't simply vanish. It collapses, shedding its outer layers to become a nebula, or crushing its own heart into a black hole. The energy is still there, it has just changed its address. Our emotional lives operate on a similar ledger. We often speak of moving on or getting over a feeling, as if we can simply delete the data from our hard drives. But feelings are a form of internal energy, chemical, electrical, and perhaps something deeper. When a profound love ends, the energy of that bond doesn't evaporate. It obeys the law of conservation. It transforms. If you cannot express that love, it becomes a localized pressure. It turns into grief. If you try to suppress that grief, the energy doesn't go away. It converts into heat, a simmering anger, or it densifies into a cold, heavy depression. We don't lose our feelings. We merely change their state. The quiet collapse of a relationship is often just the slow, grinding process of one form of energy trying to find a new, more stable configuration. We carry the ghosts of every feeling we've ever had because we are the closed system in which that energy resides. To understand our feelings is to stop trying to destroy them and to start asking, what form has this energy taken now? Perhaps the most terrifying law of the universe is the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. It states that in any closed system, disorder always increases over time. It is the reason why tea goes cold, why buildings crumble, and why the universe is slowly drifting toward a state of uniform, lukewarm nothingness. Entropy is the quiet collapse of the cosmos, and it is the primary architect of human heartbreak. Think about how much energy it takes to keep a human connection alive. You have to communicate, you have to show up, you have to forgive, you have to remember. This is what physicists call work. A relationship is a low entropy state. It is highly organized, specific, and fragile. It requires a constant infusion of energy to keep the chaos at bay. The moment we stop doing the work, entropy takes over. The silence grows. Misunderstandings accumulate. The bond doesn't usually break in a single explosive moment. It simply succumbs to the natural tendency of things to fall apart. This is why long-term loneliness feels like a fading out. It is the emotional equivalent of heat death, a state where there is no longer enough energy difference between two people to create a spark. We feel the weight of the world because we are constantly fighting a losing battle against the inevitable decay of order. But there is a strange comfort in this. If your life feels like it is becoming more chaotic, it isn't necessarily a personal failure. It is simply the universe being itself. To love is to defiantly build a sandcastle while the tide is coming in. The collapse is certain, but the act of building is where the meaning lives. Classical physics is the world of either/or. A ball is either here or it is there. A light is either on or it is off. But the deeper we go into the fabric of reality, into the quantum realm, the more we find the world of both/and. In quantum mechanics, there is a concept called superposition. A particle can exist in multiple states at once until it is observed. It is both a wave and a particle. It is both here and there. Human feelings are fundamentally quantum. We are told by society that we should feel one thing at a time. You are either happy or you are sad. You are either over your ex or you aren't. But anyone who has lived through a quiet collapse knows this is a lie. We live in a constant state of emotional superposition. We feel the bittersweet, the simultaneous presence of joy for what was and grief for its ending. We feel nostalgia, the pain of a wound that has healed but still aches when the weather changes. We can love someone and fear them at the exact same time. When we try to force ourselves into a classical either/or state, we create internal friction. We feel broken because we cannot choose a single emotion. But the physics of the soul suggests that we aren't broken. We are simply complex. We are large enough to contain contradictions. The collapse only happens when we try to observe our feelings too closely, forcing them to settle into a single, understandable label. Sometimes, the healthiest thing we can do is exist in the blur. Why does one person's presence feel like a warm light, while another's feels like a shadow? In physics, every object has a natural frequency, a rate at which it prefers to vibrate. When you subject an object to a vibration that matches its natural frequency, you get resonance. The energy is amplified. This is how a singer can shatter a wine glass. People have frequencies too. This isn't mysticism, it's biology and neuroscience. Our hearts generate electromagnetic fields that can be detected several feet away. Our brains entrain to one another. When two people are in deep conversation, their brain waves actually begin to synchronize. When we meet someone whose frequency matches our own, we experience emotional resonance. We call it chemistry. The energy between us builds and amplifies. We feel seen. We feel amplified. But there is also destructive interference. This happens when two waves meet out of phase. The peak of one wave hits the trough of the other, and they cancel each other out. You felt this. It's the person who makes you feel dimmed, the person whose very presence seems to flatten your joy. The quiet collapse of a community or a friendship often happens through this subtle, destructive interference. It's not a fight, it's just a mismatch of waves. Over time, the constant canceling out of your own energy leaves you feeling hollow, like a bell that has been muted by a hand. Water stays liquid as you cool it, degree by degree. It looks the same at 40 degrees as it does at 33, but then you hit 32 degrees. One tiny shift, and suddenly the liquid becomes a solid. The properties of the substance have fundamentally changed. This is a phase transition. Our lives are full of these quiet, invisible thresholds. We think we are fine for years. We endure the stress, the boredom, the quiet collapse of our dreams. We think we are still liquid. And then, one morning, we wake up and find that we have frozen. A single comment from a partner, a single gray Tuesday, and we realize we can no longer flow the way we used to. Grief is a phase transition. Burnout is a phase transition. Falling in love is a phase transition. These moments feel like a collapse because they are irreversible. You cannot unfreeze the ice without a massive input of new energy. We fear these transitions because they represent the end of one version of ourselves. But in physics, a phase transition is often how a system survives. If the world gets too cold, the water must turn to ice to protect what is beneath. Perhaps our breakdowns are actually our systems shifting into the only state that can survive the current environment. There is a theory in physics called the holographic principle, which suggests that all the information contained in a three-dimensional volume can be described by the information on its 2D boundary. In a hologram, if you smash the plate into 1,000 pieces, each tiny shard still contains the image of the whole. Our feelings are holographic. You can see the entirety of a failed marriage in the way a couple passes the salt. You can see the entirety of a person's childhood trauma in the way they flinch at a loud noise. The quiet collapse is rarely about the big events. It is about the fact that every small moment contains the DNA of the whole system. When we feel a sense of hollow exhaustion, it isn't just because of today. It's because today is a shard that contains the image of every today that came before it. This is why healing is so difficult and why it is so possible. Because if the whole is in every part, then changing one small habit, one small way of feeling, can theoretically ripple out to change the entire image of your life. You don't have to fix the whole universe. You just have to change the frequency of the shard you are holding right now. The universe is expanding. It is cooling. It is collapsing into a state of ultimate quiet. We are part of that universe, and so our lives, our cities, and our hearts will also experience their own versions of this collapse. But physics teaches us that collapse isn't the same as nothingness. A collapsed star becomes a lighthouse for the rest of the galaxy. A collapsed building becomes the soil for a new forest. The hidden physics of our feelings suggests that we are not victims of our emotions, but participants in a grand, energetic dance. We are systems of energy trying to find equilibrium in a world that is constantly shifting. When you feel the quiet collapse happening within you, when the meaning seems to drain out of the day, or when the weight of the past feels like gravity itself, remember that you are simply obeying the laws of the cosmos. You are conserving energy. You are navigating entropy. You are transitioning into a new phase. We are not ghosts in a machine. We are the machine and the music it plays. And even when the music slows down, even when the notes begin to fade into the silence, the energy of that song remains. It hasn't disappeared. It has just moved into the quiet, waiting for the next transformation. In the end, perhaps the quiet collapse isn't something to be feared. Perhaps it is just the universe's way of clearing the stage for the next act. After all, you cannot have a new beginning without a very quiet, very certain end.